Really, in the second half of the 2024 NFL season, I'm not sure there was a more exciting, young, fun team to watch in the NFL than the Carolina Panthers, who currently sit with the number 8 overall pick. But I think if you're a Panthers fan, you feel more hopeful about this team today than you did 6 months ago. Coming into the year, we all thought Carolina was going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And while they are still sitting with a top 10 pick, what you saw in the second half of the season, particularly from Bryce Young, should give you so much excitement about the future because that was the guy that this team took number 1 overall. You got some really fun pieces on the offensive side. Can you improve the defense and get back to relevancy? Because it looks like you've got your head coach and it looks like you got your quarterback. That's what we are going to be doing in this 7-round mock draft. We are going to be fixing the Carolina Panthers, prioritizing the defense, which was one of the worst defensive units I think I've ever seen. But we are going to be looking in that direction. If you guys are new to this channel, though, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Helps me out a ton. Lets me know you guys are enjoying these types of videos. Also, check out my Patreon page, which I will leave linked down in the description below. If you guys want my full write-ups, full scouting reports on each and every one of the prospects taken in today's mock, be sure to go check that out. I'm not going to be able to touch every note on every prospect in these videos, but if you want more information, be sure to go check out my Patreon page. Helps me out a ton. It's only $5 a month, and you get all access to all the analytics, measurements, and information you guys need to be successful this draft season. But let's kick this off with the Carolina Panthers. All right, sitting on the clock here at number 8 now, I have to keep refreshing people on this through each mock because, unfortunately, guys like Abdul Carter keep falling. We are not picking the same players twice in this series. That's just not the route we're going. If Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, or Will Johnson falls, those would be the picks. But Mason Graham was my pick in the Jets mock. Abdul Carter was my pick in the Browns mock. And Will Johnson was my pick in the Jaguars mock. So we're sitting here at number 8. I definitely think I've seen wide receiver mocked here a couple times. Luther Burden, really exciting receiver, probably a slot guy. I think is a good complement to what you have. I've got some guys in mind down the board that I think could be that slot kind of piece for you that I'm pretty excited about. I'm not going to take Luther Burden here at 8 because I think edge is that important for this team to address. I think their edge rush room, Jadeveon Clowney showed some potential at times. He showed some flashes, but you don't have the number 1 guy that you can consistently trust to win. Derek Brown will be back next year. That'll be huge, but his strength really isn't in rushing the passer. It's in his ability to tackle, defend the run. You need a guy that can get after the quarterback. Jadeveon Clowney, good, not great. DJ Wanham hasn't really been much, was kind of a dart at a dartboard sort of target and wasn't something I thought much of. We're going to go with a player who I absolutely love and is I've said this on numerous occasions throughout the season. The gap between James Pierce and Abdul Carter, to me, is not as significant as a lot of people are saying. Abdul Carter is now getting this generational label. He had an awesome season for Penn State, and he is my edge 1 now. James Pierce was my edge 1 for a long time. I've given it to Abdul Carter, though. James Pierce is just a really, really good edge rusher. Coming off a awesome season for Tennessee, where he had a pass rush win rate of 22.7%, 8 sacks, 55 pressures on the season for Tennessee. This is a guy that is a Charlotte native, incredibly explosive off the line of scrimmage with elite bend. He shows active hand. And where he improved the most this season was as a run defender. That was the big concern with him coming into the year. He took major strides as a run defender this year. I think he is going to be the number 2 edge in this class. He is my number 2 edge. I love the athleticism. I love the size, the length. Might be a 3-4 outside linebacker or a designated pass rusher just because I believe he is like 240 pounds, 242. Maybe not ideal there, but just the pass rush upside with this guy, I think, is through the roof, and he's got to be the pick here at number 8 for me if I'm the Carolina Panthers. All right, sitting here at number 57, and I got to be totally honest, I really didn't love the way the board fell. Xavier Watts would have been my pick. Took him in the Jets mock. I mentioned don't want to take the same guys multiple times. Want to get a chance to talk about new prospects. The D-line class, TJ Sanders from South Carolina was the guy I was targeting for this team. He's off the board. Interior defensive line is a huge need. I also think receiver could be a need. We mentioned wanting to go with one of these slot guys. I like Jalen Royals. I see him picking again at 74. I think I can get Royals or Restrepo at 74. So I'm going to hold out there. And we are going to go with an interior defensive lineman to kind of pick your poison. Do you want to double dip on Tennessee guys? I really like Omar Norman Lott. Did not see the field as much as you would like to have seen, but 6'3", 315 pounds, and is a really good pass rusher from the inside. Active hands, great athleticism, showed the ability to win in multiple different ways. He's not the strongest guy in the world, which is going to be a concern, but I think the upside is certainly there. It'll be interesting to see him at the Senior Bowl. It'll be interesting to see all three of these guys at the Senior Bowl. Alfred Collins, 6'5", 321, coming off a really good season for the University of Texas. Great size, a really solid athlete, which I don't think you were expecting. He has shown upside and improvement as a pass rusher, even though I think he's probably a better run defender. So if you're looking for a pass rush guy, I think Deion Walker from Kentucky is going to be the pick. 6'6", 348 pounds. So that was the measurements over the summer. I think I saw recently that he's around 6'7", 352. This guy is an absolute freak of nature off the line of scrimmage. He has some of the best size I've ever seen, but he's also an incredible pass rusher. Quick first step. Felt virtually unblockable at times in 2023. He shows run defense upside. He does need to improve at taking on double teams. He's not really the most powerful player in the world, which is really interesting. I think he is going to be a second-round pick. The athleticism and the tools are too high to pass on. In this spot where he's next to Derek Brown, who can kind of take on some of those double teams, allow him to get one-on-one matchups, I think you could be looking at a really, really good interior defensive lineman. So Deion Walker from Kentucky is going to be the pick here at 57. He's fallen down boards, was a potential top 10 pick over the summer. Now he's kind of fallen down, but I think this is really good value here at 57 for Carolina. All right, back on the clock here at number 74, and some good players. I like the way the board looks now compared to where it did. We've gotten two defensive linemen. I want to go get another receiver. We mentioned wanting to get another weapon. This team drafted Jonathan Mingo with the thought that he could be this dynamic slot piece, this versatile guy. I can't think of a pick that flamed out more. I was really low on Jonathan Mingo at the time, and unfortunately, my concerns ended up coming to fruition. They traded him to Dallas, and that's been a whole mess. But you're sitting here at 74. Really loved Jalen Coker, was one of my favorite undrafted free agent pickups. He looked really nice. Adam Thielen, you still got under contract, and Xavier Legette, who is that deep ball threat. You kind of got a good mix in here. I kind of want to get a slot weapon, maybe a guy you can get the ball to in space that's got some speed. I'm actually, originally when I came up, I was looking at Xavier Restrepo, a guy that is a really good body control route runner, can get open in the middle of the field. I love that about Restrepo in his game. I think the upside with him is pretty high, but he's a limited athlete, got a bit of a interesting build at 5'10", 198. He's not the fastest guy. I'm actually going to go a different route here. I like Restrepo, but for this team, I'm looking at Tez Johnson out of Oregon. Now, 5'10", 161 pounds. Really, really small receiver, but this is a guy that is going to run probably in the 4.3s. Absolutely explosive speed for this guy that could take the top off the defense at any time, but is a guy that you can use in the way that you wanted to use Mingo. Get him the ball in space. He's really good after the catch. He has sure hands. He's actually more physical than you would expect. Yes, the size is going to be a concern, but this is around the range we saw Tank Dell go. That is my pro comp for Tez Johnson. And Tank Dell has had a pretty nice young NFL career when he's been on the field. I think Tez Johnson is that type of player. So I'm going to take him at 74. Good route runner, speed, and the ability to take the top off the defense, I think is exactly what this team is looking for in a slot wide receiver. On the board here at number 109, and cornerback was the position that I was targeting. JC Horn plays like an all-pro when he's on the field, but unfortunately, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. This is a team that traded Dante Jackson for Deontay Johnson, and unfortunately, that ended up flaming out. You need another corner, needless to say, and Dalen Everett is a player in this class that I just don't think is getting enough he's just not getting talked about enough. He is a 6'1", 190 pounds. I do think athletically, he's not the best in the world. Can be a little bit stiff at times. He's got tight hips, but heavy instincts is what I love about this guy. He's a good tackler, did a good job of like coming downhill, defending the run. I thought he thrived in zone coverage, though. Quick, short area burst, really impressive. He's got good length. He is really good at just feeling coverage in zone, reading the quarterback's eyes, picking up wide receivers that are coming into his area. I really like that about him. He's not a guy that's going to be the best in man-to-man situations. I thought the ball skills really improved in 2024. I think the upside there is there with Dalen Everett. I really do. I think he has potential to be a potential starting cornerback in the NFL level. And here at 109, I think this is really great value to go get a number 2 corner. Very similar to Kamari Lassiter as a prospect in terms of the weaknesses. And Kamari Lassiter had a really good rookie season for Houston. I'm going to take Dalen Everett. I think he's got the potential to be a really solid player at the next level. On the clock here at 112, and I'm kind of looking for a long-term center option here in Carolina. Austin Corbett, he's fine. He's got a void year on his contract that I think Carolina should probably use. I think they'd save like $7 million. He's just battled injuries for a long time. Cade Mays as well as your backup center now. He's a free agent, so you kind of need to look long-term at the center position. And Jake Majors is a player that's starting to generate a little bit of draft buzz. He's been at Texas for, it seems like, a long time, but he's been a really productive player for the Longhorns. Very smart player. I thought he did a good job of chipping on the inside. He does move well in space. He's not an elite mover, but I think he's good. Over 2,700 snaps of experience at the Power 4 level. He does a good job in pass protection at countering pass rush moves. I do think he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker, and I think he's got to get a little bit stronger. But a player that can be a starting center for you at the next level at 112, yeah, sign me up for that. I like the versatility. I like the experience. I like the football IQ. It's all there for him. So I'm going to take Jake Majors at number 112. On the clock here at number 140, and I'm looking at the safety position if I'm the Panthers. 4 safeties are a free agent on this team. Jordan Fuller, Nick Scott, just to name a couple of them. Your 4 most important DBs are going to be hitting free agency. Now, I think they're going to probably sign one in free agency. There's some guys that I think would be really good scheme fits, but a player that I think is being so undervalued in this draft class is Virginia safety Jonas Sanker, 6'1", 210 pounds. He's my number 132 prospect in the board. He's number 199 here. So this is closer to where I have him going. I think he's a really good talent. If you watch this guy play in the box, I think he was one of the best pure like box safeties in this class. Elite run defender. And he showed the upside to come downhill and blitz from time to time. He's a strong tackler, a pretty solid athlete with some good speed, can play one-on-one in coverage, thought he was good in zone. He does need to improve his eyes in zone coverage. He can improve getting off blocks, but this is a guy that he's got a Senior Bowl invite. I love the traits with him. He's got good size. He can defend the run. He can blitz a little bit. This is a guy that I think is a really versatile defensive back. And when you got all of these needs at the safety position, I think going out and getting a guy like Jonas Sanker makes a ton of sense. So I'm going to take him here at 140, and he's going to be a safety that I value pretty heavily at my defense next year. Back on the clock at 146, I want to go edge again. I know we took James Pierce earlier. I want to double dip and take 2 edge rushers in this class because, 1, this edge class is absolutely loaded. 2, I want a guy that I can develop. They took DJ Johnson from Oregon a couple of years ago, way overdrafted him. He hasn't really turned into much. I want to go get a guy because Clowney's got 1 year left on his contract. So does Wanham. Take a guy, let him develop for a year, and then give him the big role to be that number 2 edge. And I'm looking at Ja Joyner out of Minnesota. Really interesting athlete. He's got the length. He's 6'5", 265 pounds. I think is a really, really impressive athlete. He brings good potential as a run defender. He's got the elite size and length you look for. he had versatility. They played him just about everywhere along the defensive line. And I thought he had really, really good bend for an edge rusher. He doesn't have the most pass rush moves in the world. Athletically, maybe not the most explosive guy in the world, but this is a guy here at 146. He's another guy that I believe, he's got a Senior Bowl invite. He will probably end up boosting his stock because I think the tools, the measurables are going to be really impressive with him. And at 146, I think taking a guy like this to be a long-term sort of number 2 edge, I think this is good value. So we're going to take him in hopes to develop him to be a real rotational piece for us in the future. On the clock here at 163, Jatavian Sanders was pretty solid as a rookie in the limited amount of targets that he got. This is a guy, though, that was never a blocker. That just wasn't his game. He was a receiving tight end through and through, and he was really good at that. And I think he's going to be a nice NFL player. Tommy Trimble and Ian Thomas, both free agents this year that I don't necessarily think this team should be looking to bring back. So where do you go? I'm looking at Jackson Halls, the tight end out of Georgia Tech. I know not a lot of people have heard of him because the guy just hasn't put up really good receiving numbers. That's not his game. He's 6'5", 260, one of the most unproductive receivers I think I've ever watched, but is one of the best blocking tight ends I think I've ever seen. Like, he's on that Tip Ryman level, Darnell Washington level of just absolutely mauler as a blocker. And he moves better than you would expect. I think the potential as a receiver is certainly there. He's had drop concerns. He's not super twitchy, but you're drafting this guy as a number 2 behind Sanders to be a blocker because he's so good as an inline blocker. You can put him in 12 personnel. I really, really love Jackson Halls as a player. I'm higher on him than a lot of people. I think the value here is really good at 163. I've got a 4th round grade on him, so this is actually lower than where I have him. I'm a big fan of Jackson Halls and what he could be in the NFL, so I'm going to take him here at 163. My final pick here at 228, between 2 different positions here. Quarterback, I like Seth Hennigan quite a bit out of Memphis. I think he is going to be a drafted quarterback. I think the guy's got some real upside. With Andy Dalton being a free agent, I don't think it hurts to go out and get a quarterback, but I am going to look linebacker. Shaq Thompson, free agent. You could definitely look to improve there. You drafted Trevin Wallace. I liked Trevin Wallace. I wouldn't say I loved Trevin Wallace. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see where they go. I'm actually going to go a little bit off the board here. There are a few names that I really considered. I just don't think those first 5 or 6 guys are going to be on the board. Kaiser, Mauigoa, Woodard, Lindenberg, Powell, Martin. Don't think they're going to be on the board here. So we're kind of looking around at some players that make a little bit more sense. And Jalen McLeod, really interesting player. I was an edge last year. They moved him to linebacker. Incredible athlete. Good first step. I thought he was good in coverage. He's got quickness, bend. I love to see that. 237 pounds, so decent size for the linebacker position. Does need to improve his play strength and his balance, get better at being a reliable tackler. I think he's a real option here. Tamarian Wilson, interesting player as well. A safety, a guy that I have as a safety on my board. Really like him though. 6'2", 215, probably safety size, but good in zone coverage. He's got versatility to play everywhere. Does miss a lot of tackles and has not had the greatest of ball skills. And the other guy that I'm looking at is Kareem Reed out of Utah. Senior Bowl invite guy, good athlete that I think has kind of been overshadowed by his teammate at times in Lander Barton. He's dealt with some injuries, not amazing in coverage. Didn't think he's the best block shedder in the world. I think, though, the safest bet is probably Kareem Reed. I think he's got the highest floor. And if you're trying to replace Shaq Thompson, I think Kareem Reed can definitely do that. So he's going to be my pick here at number 407. So there we have it, Panthers fans. There is my 7-round Carolina Panthers mock. No trades in this one, but tons of defensive help. A new linebacker, 2 edge rushers that I think could be really good for you. An interior guy on Deion Walker with the upside that's through the roof. Some secondary pieces that I really like. And then you get a little bit of help on the O-line. You get a receiver in Tez Johnson. You get a blocking tight end like Jackson Halls. I think this team could make the wild card game at the very worst next year with these moves. But I'd love to hear from you guys, Panthers fans. What do you guys think? Do you like the mock? Do you dislike it? Let me know down in the comment section below. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.